take a look at transposing into the bass clef. We've already had a look at the names of the notes in the bass clef lines, and remember we had a little phrase for remembering those bass clef lines: great big dogs from Africa. Bass clef spaces, and you'll remember that we had a phrase for that too: all cows eat grass. So that's the lines and the spaces in the bass clef. Now you may be asked at higher to transpose some notes or some bars from the treble clef into the bass clef. Transpose means to change the pitch. So there's a couple of ways of doing this. We look at this, we can see this is a piano stave here, and we can see that this is a treble clef up here, and these are the treble clef notes. This is the bass clef here. There's some bass clef notes. Notice how one clef just flows into the next. Here's the note names up here. Now you may be asked to transpose this note here an octave lower into the bass clef. We can see at the moment it's in the treble clef. We can see that it's the note F. Our job now is to find the nearest F to it in the bass clef. Now that's going to be 8 notes away, including the note itself. So here we are. Here's a treble clef. There's the note that we're asked to transpose. I'm just going to go backwards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 notes until we reach this note here. Now you know, if you've done it right, that should also be an F. Let's think about the bass clef lines. Great big dogs from, and that is an F. So you would write that note there. If you were asked to transpose this note an octave lower into the bass clef, you can see at the moment it's in the treble clef. We look at this note, we identify that it's a G. Our job now then is to find the nearest G to it, lower down. Remember, the bass clef's lower than the treble clef, so we're going down by an octave. In other words, 8 notes. So here's the first note, this is a G. So we're going down 8 notes, including this note. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Here's the note we're landing on. Let's just check if that's a G. Treble clef is the bass clef, so we're looking for all cows eat grass. You can see that that note is indeed a G, and that's how you would write it. You'll be asked to transpose more than one note, though. As I said earlier, it might be a couple of bars you're asked to transpose. So let's say, for example, they're asking you to transpose this group of 5 notes into the bass clef. It's not going to be as difficult as it looks, because you'll notice that the same note comes 3 times. So we identify, first of all, that's a C, that's a D, there's the C again, that's a B, and that's a C. That's the notes. Just apply the same principle as before. So we're looking at this C. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And we're just moving that down. And we do the same principle with the other notes too. Just moving them down 8 notes. And you would write that. Got to be careful though that you don't move the notes too far down. So for example, if you're asked to transpose this group of 3 notes an octave lower, and you wrote that, you've gone too far down. Now these 3 notes are G, A, G, and so are these 3 notes. But they're not correct because they've gone down too far. And the correct version is that. There's far more than 8 notes between that note and that note. Although that is a G, there must be a G somewhere up here in the bass clef, closer to the top. And we know if we think about our spaces, oh cows eat grass, there's a G up there. And that's where it should be. Likewise, this note is an A. And we want an A. But there must be an A somewhere else, further up here somewhere. So we think about the lines, great big dogs from Africa. Top line is an A, and that's why the correct version is that. Similar to what we spoke about in the last slide there, don't jump around unnecessarily. So for example, if you were asked to transpose this same group of 3 notes an octave lower, then you need to know that the 3 notes, look how here they are right next to each other. They're next door neighbour notes. That note's the same in fact. This one is just a step higher. So this cannot possibly be correct. Yes, the notes are right. That's a G, A, G. So is this, G, A, G. But notice that while these notes are all right next to each other, these notes aren't. Look at all the lines and spaces in between here, jumping about all over the place. So that can't be right. It can't be the correct answer. And in fact, the correct answer should be that. The notes here are right next to each other, just the way they are in the original version. There is a cheats way of doing this though, if you want to look at it a different way, or you can use it as a way of checking what you've done. So let's say for example you've got that F in the treble clef and you want to transpose it down 1 octave into the bass clef. So there's the note in the treble clef, we know that's an F. Bottom space in the treble clef, F. Now, count 6 steps up, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So you're counting 6 steps up from that note in the treble clef. Notice how we've now arrived at the 4th line of the stave. If you were to go to your bass clef stave and write that note here on the 4th line of that bass clef, first line, second line, third line, 4th line, you would see that that is an F. So it's just a little cheats way of doing that.